Bull Mountain and all the other areas of the East Precinct.
Okay.
You
And
can
it's your phone number?
Yep, you can contact, well, this is my specific phone number. You can call me, leave a message, and I can get that ball
Okay,
going.
all right.
Or you can call the number 846-2700 and ask them to patch you to Doreen Rivera.
And that's
great.
503?
Yeah, 503 area code.
Thank you.
You betcha. Yeah.
This may be sort of off topic, but you mentioned that a lot of crime is drug related, so I was curious about something. When my daughter was 17, she got into trouble for meth possession. She's fine now, she's grown up, married, happy. But I was a little surprised by the fact, she was picked up by Washington County Sheriff's Office. And I was a little surprised by the fact that they didn't ask her who her supplier was. And I would have thought that would have been routine, that they would have tried to find out who the dealers were. Is that, what's the policy of it?
Just like everybody else, we're human beings as police officers. There's better investigators as opposed to other investigators. Personally, I know a lot of guys who don't ask. They do ask. A lot of the times, I always ask. A lot of times they don't know because it's a friend of a friend, or they refuse to tell because of identity purposes. But yeah, we do that quite often. Yes, there are times that we don't do that. That was specifically probably a time where we did not do that. Have I done it before? Yes. When I was newer and I didn't know any better, and I didn't look at the big picture of things, I just wanted to get that quick pop.
Well, you know, in the TV police shows, they're always saying, okay, we're gonna make a deal. You wanna stay out of jail, you tell us who your supplier is. So I would have thought there would have been some kind of
That's
process.
two-pronged.
Yeah.
Some deputies do that. Some of the deputies are very skilled in doing that and very successful. But the other prong is that we give the information to our West Side Interagency Narcotics Unit, who are basically our drug team unit, and they take that and run with it. But like fraud calls or anything, these calls are so high in volume.
Yeah.
Drug arrests are so high in volume, whether it be pound plus marijuana or methamphetamine. So our drug unit is very backed up too, if you should imagine. So yeah, it all depends too on the experience of the deputy and how much they want to dig. Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Pavel Gogerman. I see you look like work many years for police department, yeah?
9 years here at Washington County.
9 years, yeah, okay. What do you think, crime increase, higher, yeah?
It goes in waves. It goes in waves.
Okay, what's your opinion? What you could recommend as police represent the people of our state, your country, before government, U.S. government? What do you recommend government to do?
What do I recommend our government to do?
To reduce crime, yeah.
To reduce crime. Well, that's a personal opinion.
No, you represent people.
Yeah, we sure do. It all depends, our government is, a lot of times the philosophies of a street level police officer and a street level, and the police department, we all have to work in conjunction with our government. State, not only state, but federal laws that come down to us. A lot of our actions that we want to proceed with are limited by what the government tells us that we can do. And the state laws, they're allowed to limit what we're allowed to do even more. Basically, our state laws make our job more difficult and easier for people to manipulate and get away with crimes with the lesser punishments and stuff.
May I recommend you, you may not make law. You could give some suggestion, recommendation to government. You mentioned state government, because federal government pay schools. I think crime increased because no punishment. Police officer risk their life, catch criminal. After a few days, he releases or she releases. You see, I think most prison, it consume our money. It prison for entertainment, for education. It must be punishment. Then they have to work, it pay back to society. I originally from Russia. In Russia, people are afraid to get prison. That's what we have to do here. Prison must be profitable. Then police will be much easier work.
And a lot of response to that, I agree.
It federal government must pay school, it must start educate children from small age. Don't do crime, don't do crime about drugs. I learned it from drugs when I was
Okay,
small
so let's get back to letting her
Okay.
finish
Can I
this stuff.
conclude with that? The government knows about that. They know our opinions, we express our opinions,
Yeah, therefore, I don't forward.
out of our hands.
Okay. I also have some agendas, and we appreciate your coming tonight, and
Right,
thank
high
you
five.
for your.
Thanks, guys. Guys who have the hands, I'll leave these up here too. If you guys have any questions or want to take one of these, give me a holler. We'll chit chat. I can call you back. Absolutely.
We have two letters on the
I'll leave the rest up here, folks. Thanks, guys, for your time and opportunity. Take care.
Okay, so why don't we take 5 minutes and have each of you introduce yourself, if you have, a couple of bullet points of things that you are, reasons that you're running, and then we'll open it up to questions. And we'll give each person a minute to answer questions. If you want to direct to a particular candidate, please do so. We'll get, he's representing Rob Cornelis tonight, who couldn't be here, so there's no another chair up there, so we'll just keep him in the loop too. So we'll start on this side. If you would introduce yourself, because I don't recognize all your faces and names.
Okay.
Oh, over here, okay.
I'm actually a candidate as well, even though I'm not in the front row.
Okay.
My name is Dan Strike, and I'm a born and raised in Oregon candidate for the 1st District. And I'm running because the system is broken, our government is broken, and it needs fixed. This isn't just my opinion. If you ask 100 people or 1,000 people, I think they'll agree with that assessment. My platform is short and concise. It's number one, get out of the war business. And secondly, you govern by compromise consensus. We should have never gone to Afghanistan or Iraq. I'm not against the military. I'm a Korean War veteran with the Marine Corps. I'm not against wars. I'm just against wars that are wrong, that have no meaningful purpose. We're over there in Afghanistan trying to form a government. All you have to do is do a little research. There's 7 tribes, 40 sub-tribes. There's a north, south, east, west. They don't get along with each other. They kill each other. They fight each other. So let's say you're a member of this tribe and you're a sergeant and here's a member of another tribe and he's a private. They're not going to work together. They're going to kill each other or whatever. If the people eventually want to change, the people will have to change if they want to have a republic or a democracy. They've had thousands of years of not dealing with each other. What in the world makes us think that we should spend trillions of dollars and 6,500 Americans so far on an issue that it doesn't take any brains? Everybody in this room can tell right from wrong. So help me. Doesn't take any brains. So we've got all these great social programs, whether it's education or health care, whatever it might be. Not going to happen. Not going to happen, folks, because you don't have the money to do it. And you don't have the money to do it because you're spending it all other places. You still have 35,000 men in the service in Korea. What in the world is that all about? You got 50,000 in Germany. Man, our foreign policy is so screwed up. It is major. When we think we're so good that we should control the whole world. Wow, how sad is that? I mean, and it comes down to, I'm not bawling you all out. I'm just saying that you have an opportunity to change things. and I'll tell you how you can do that. You got 40,000 lobbyists with big fat checkbooks going to congressmen and senators, writing $50,000 checks. Help me with my cause. When that legislature comes up, walk it through. Don't worry about the people. Just take care of me. And then you've got campaign financing, unlimited amounts. Wow, I can tell you some stories on that. So, number one, you put a $50 cap on campaign financing, and you put a $50 limit on, what do we call it? What do the lobbyists do? Are they thieves? A lot of them are. Anyway, so you put a $50 limit on that. So here's the take on, you're gonna let me know when I'm through talking.
You've got, yeah, about 1 minute.
Okay, so here's my take on consensus or compromise. You're here and I'm here, we need to get to there, okay? I'm here and you're here, and I'll move and you won't. Then, I don't care what state you're from, Maine, Washington, Oregon, people should recall you. We need to get our government working for the people. It's not gonna happen the way it is. Do you see what goes on in Washington? Here are these two groups of 3-year-olds cuddling their toys. Are they sharing? I swear to not, they're not sharing. Do they get along? They can't throw enough oranges at each other. They have no purpose because it's all moral and greed. And that's where I stand. And with that said, I have no illusions about where I'm going. I'm 80 years old, okay? But this purpose, this platform, which is a platform of the people, not Democrats entirely, not Republicans, not Green Party or Blue Party or Peace Party or Libertarians or Tea Parties. You can go ask 100 people and 99 of them will say, get out of the war business and find people that will get along with each other somehow or other. You don't win every time. You shouldn't expect to win every time.
Okay,
My name is Dan Stride, and thank you for CPO.
CPO 4B.
CPO 4B. It's great to be here, and it's the cause that's important.
Thank you.
So jump in. Don't be bashful.
So you let me know when I have it.
I will, yes.
I'm Jim Greenfield, and I'm running the Republican primary. I was the Republican nominee for this seat for Congress in 2002. Can I ask how many people here are Democrats and how many Republicans? This is all a Republican meeting?
No,
Oh,
Somebody
so-
independent.
independent.
Yeah,
So
I'm
independent.
independent.
Okay, so some independent. How many
This
Republicans?
is not a political meeting, so we,
Okay, well, I just kind of like to know
Yeah.
who I'm talking to. And you can ask me any question you like to. Let me ask you this. Suppose you had a friend who came to you for advice and said, I've got a problem. I earn a pretty good living, but I spend a lot more than I make. And I am hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Do you have any advice for me? How many would say, my advice is that you should spend more money and go deeper into debt? Anybody think that that would be the smart thing to do? That's what President Obama is telling us. That we need to spend more money and borrow more money. Now, just to put this in perspective, the United States has a debt on the books of almost $15 trillion, the United States government. That doesn't include another $70 trillion in unfunded liabilities that our government owes, but it doesn't show up on the books. That's for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So you add that up, you got about $80 to $85 trillion in debt. The government takes in about maybe something under $2.5 trillion a year in taxes. You think they're going to be able to pay off that $80 trillion in debt? Just to put this in perspective, suppose you had somebody, suppose your friend said, well, I make $50,000 a year, and I spend $85,000 a year, and I have $1.5 million in debt. You think he's going to get out of debt? No. So what's the first thing you have to do? Cut your spending. You know, you gotta pay your mortgage, you gotta buy food, but you're gonna have to stop going out for dinner, you're gonna have to stop taking vacations, right? So the United States government borrows 40 cents of every dollar it spends. We're going deeper and deeper into debt. You know, in all of the 230 plus years of our country's history, we've never had a debt that came anything close to this. We cannot solve this problem by raising taxes. The only way to solve the problem is to cut the spending. And if we don't, we are going down. We are like headed for the edge of a cliff. And the guys who are riding the bus have got their foot on the accelerator and they're not even slowing down. Some of them talk about cutting spending. But they're not cutting spending, they're just talking about it. Obama says, well, we can raise taxes to solve the problem. No, that's not going to work. If you put in the tax hikes that he's advocating, it'll bring in another $20 or $30 billion a year. It's not going to make a dent in a $15 trillion debt. Other great countries before us have destroyed themselves by this kind of fiscal mismanagement. You know, the Greeks, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, that's what did them in. That's what's going to do us in. And if you don't believe me, it's already happening. Do you know how long the average recession has been? In the history of our country, the average recession lasts 6 to 12 months. We've been in this one now for almost 4 years. Do you see an end to it? No. We are going to go down unless we get people into Congress who understand what the problem is and are willing to stand on principle to do something about it. And what I want to do is, I want to cut spending. It's the only thing you know, it's not about liberal or conservative or moderate. It's about math. These are the numbers. This is a fact. This is what Al Gore would call an inconvenient truth. The inconvenient truth is that if we do not dramatically cut our spending, we're going to destroy our economy.
And cancel, Jim.
You didn't give me a minute.
I'm sorry, I didn't. You're right.
Can I have 30
Yes,
seconds
yes,
to quote
Yes.
the author of the Declaration of Independence? I am for a government vigorously frugal and simple. To preserve the people's independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. See, this is not a plea to the rulers not to load us with debt. It's a plea to the people. Don't let your rulers load you with perpetual debt. For this is the tendency of all human governments, till the bulk of society is reduced to be mere automatons of misery. Then begins indeed the war of all against all. And the forehorse of this frightful team is public debt. Taxation follows that, and in its train, wretchedness and oppression. That's Thomas Jefferson. If you teach your children nothing else, teach them this. We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. And if I go to Washington, I'm going to fight with every breath to reverse that, to cut the spending and get us out of debt and save our country.
Thank you.
I am D.R. Delgado Morgan, running for Oregon's Congressional District 1. Like most, I am deeply concerned with the stagnation of our economy and the ever-increasing intrusiveness of government into the daily lives of individual citizens. I am running for Congress excuse me, because I believe the people of District 1 deserve a confident voice in advocating for their right to govern themselves, rather than imposing federal solutions for local issues. As we have learned in recent years, solutions from Washington, D.C. are often worse than the problems that they were meant to solve. For too long, our so-called leaders have repeatedly acted outside the scope and intent of the Constitution, and in the process have burdened society with unsustainable levels of spending and debt with virtually no accountability. between the TARP Act of 2008 and the Stimulus Act of 2009, more than $1.5 trillion have been spent with no real accounting for that money. The U.S. Constitution requires that a regular accounting of receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published. As your representative in Congress, I will demand a full accounting of all expenditures and will press for full disclosure of every dollar spent for bailouts and stimulus programs. As your representative in Congress, I will work to return local control over. As your representative in Congress, I will work to return local control over local issues to the people and will insist that the 10th Amendment be held sacred by the U.S. government. Accordingly, I will push for a full repeal of President Obama's takeover of the U.S. healthcare industry, and I will work to roll back overreaching federal legislation which violates the 10th Amendment. As your representative in Congress, I will take an oath to uphold the Constitution. For me, this is more than a mere formality. Taking an oath will be both binding and sacred. And I will view this legislation through the lens of the U.S. Constitution. Simply put, if it's not allowed for in the Constitution, my vote will be no. Those who established this great nation gave us a grand experiment of self-governance that for over 224 years has proven to work, and Oregon has a proud tradition of independence, which in recent years has been eroding as we have become more and more dependent on federal money to fund local governments. For too long, congressional representatives have spent time, energy, and resources working to increase Oregon's dependency on the federal dollars. So let me be crystal clear. Because I believe in the sovereignty of the people, I am going to spend less time working to bring home the bacon and more time working to help you keep more of your own bacon. Pork barrel spending and earmarks in legislation have become a way of life in Washington, D.C. And as your representative in Congress, I will fight for a lean federal government and will work to restore Oregon to its proud traditions of a rugged independence. As your representative in Congress, I promise to act with integrity and courage. And I will work to rein in out-of-control federal government spending that is strangling our economy with oppressive regulation and stifling the entrepreneurial spirit. Can I finish the last slide?
Oh, you've got 1 minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
Stifling the entrepreneurial spirit of small business that are best equipped to bring us out of the recession. I believe the people, not the politicians, have the best understanding for what is needed to turn this economy around. And I will work to get government out of the way so that the individuals who make our nation great can again show the world what free people can accomplish. I am humbled by this opportunity to ask for your vote. And I invite you to join me as we work together to restore the greatness of our district, our state, and our nation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So I am Lisa Michaels. Let me get this, I want to show everybody this graph. It's done from the source is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. As you can see, it starts with 2003. The red lines indicate Republican-controlled Congresses. As you can see, this is going up is job creation. Every year, Republican-controlled Congress, jobs have increased. As soon as the Democrats got control, now Bush is still president, and we like to always attribute the person at the top of the ticket as the issue, but I think this indicates to us what really is happening. It's so much more important that we have a Republican, conservative Republican-controlled Congress if we want to increase jobs. Because if we continue to send back Democrats, look what happened. This is 2007 right here, and then it just goes on. And this, Obama moved in right here. It just plummeted. The jobs just plummeted. Why did it plummet? For many of the reasons that were already outlined by my opponent over here, Jim Greenfield, and by Delinda. It's too much spending. Way too much spending. These Democrats apparently want to just spend us into oblivion. We can't, it's untenable. We can't, our country, our economy is on life support. We can no longer tolerate this. I'm off, if you want to go on YouTube, I've got over 100 videos. I have been politically active in Portland. I've been here for 20 years. I moved into Murray Hill, next to Murray Hill, Williamsburg subdivision is right next to Murray Hill, 20 years ago. And I am very active. And there was read a book, set up and sold out, what green really means. And in it they had a document that was discovered in a raid in Dusseldorf, Germany, almost 100 years ago. At the top of it, this is a police raid, it said, Communist Rules for Revolution. Just 9 simple rules. I've got a lot of them committed to memory. The first one is get control of the youth. Get them away from religion and get them interested in sex and athletics. Number 2 is get control of all means of communication, all publicity. Pardon? Oh, no. Well, basically, it's obfuscation. They want to get the kids' minds off of individual achievement and that sort of thing. And then they want to get control of the media. They've done an excellent job at both. Then they want to separate us and not appreciate our natural leaders. They want to divide us over controversial matters of no importance. That was another one of the rules. Number 6, which is just so scary and is most important right now, through government extravagance, destroy the credit, cause fear of inflation and general discontent. Do we not think that's happening? Government extravagance is exactly why we are in the situation that we're in right now. Spending, spending, spending. And then you've got these campaigns where they raise tons and tons and tons of money, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and then they get into Washington, D.C., or they get into the White House, and then these people come to them and they say, you need to do what I tell you to do because I donated to your campaign. Well, I've been preparing for this race for the last 15 years. I've been on television. My face was on television every Saturday night on Coin Television. There's a TV show called Around Town with Dave Anderson, who's currently on AM Northwest. I've been on television doing my television show where I talk with my audience. You can tweet in, you can Skype in, you can call in. It's our show. It's on relationships. Almost 100% of us have a relationship with somebody of the opposite gender at some point in our lives. So it's pardon? 1 minute. Oh, right, thank you. So I don't need to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. I get recognized on the street from people who appreciate my relationship show and my accountability show where I show what government extravagance and government malfeasance is happening in our community that the news media will not tell you about. My street credentials are, I'm an open book. Just go to YouTube, put in Lisa Michaels, and you'll know everything you'd ever want to know about me. I'm a single mother, a divorced. I have 3 boys I've raised. They went through, I was on the Murray Hill Little League board. They all went through Murray Hill Little League. And my 2 oldest are attending my university that I got my Bachelor of Science degree in journalism in, the University of Kansas. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, go KU. And my youngest son went to Nancy Riles. He's now currently at Valley Catholic, and he's 13 years old. And I'd appreciate your vote. I'm Lisa Michaels. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Pavel Boiperman. Who voted in previous year's election must know, but who read voter pamphlet, but who did not read voter pamphlet, vote who they see on TV, they don't know about me. But in 2008, I ran for U.S. Senate against Smith. Some did mock election. He read voter pamphlet, he elected me for U.S. Senate, but not Merkley. First, thank you, your organization, for organizing this forum. I push for this. People must take election process in own hand. Okay, I originally from former USSR, Russia, came here for 1980 for political reason. I fought KGB there, government. Now I have privilege to fight corrupted government here in United States. For me, I grew, my parents died World War II. I grew up in orphanage and school, vacation school, military, and then work as manager after university. He had very good success in my business. Came here 1980, attended university, but did mistake. I quit. I did not know the system. Okay, why I ran for U.S. representative? Because of Constitution United States. It is Constitution that covers this country, but many politicians ignore this, do criminal contempt Constitution, violate code of ethics for government employee, do official misconduct. It is felony. Many politicians in United States judges should be in prison. Why I am former immigrant with imperfect English must fight for this country? Because during naturalization 1986 I gave oath to defend this country from foreign and domestic enemies. Well, this I am doing now. 13 years I could not get justice. 13 years. I illegally was terminated by Tremet. I contacted many bully, Avikian, not convinced yet criminal, other organization. I could not get justice. I filed lawsuit against federal judges. My lawsuit was dismissed, same judges. You see, it is, for me, surprise how American people allow media junta hijacked this country. Media junta promote money in election. But the election don't need money. Article 2, Section 4 says for bribery must be impeachment. Very simple. All this media promote. I think the federal government most corrupt, not only the other government, most corrupted government in the world. You do it openly on base of fundraising. It's not proper way to run business. Okay, now I'm in health fitness business. I'm 74, no medical problem. I'm author and publisher of book named Get Energized, producer of video. My point is I concentrate on prevention. So must be in nation. Nation spends so much money on healthcare. I promise to save nation a few $1 billion on healthcare. Also, I run for office because I have planned to create a few million jobs in the United States. I promise to help to balance budget in a few months, not in a few years. Stop our spending, wasting money, $1 billion on country where people say, that's America. I against illegal immigration. When person got naturalization,
1 minute.
But most of them immigrants, they're not loyal to this country. But we pay them money, all taxpayers' money. I showed you about Occupy Portland. It's a play game. I say they barking on wrong tree, have to occupy corrupted media. I say them, they do nothing. They will lose. It's useless. Therefore, I blame media. My point is, read water pamphlet. I have no any negative about candidate. Only against Avekian, Bonmanici, and Witt. They corrupted. Therefore, read water pamphlet. Vote who is best for it. Also, election is violation of primary. It's violation against right of independent. Everybody must. My point is, abolish primary election.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dominic Hammond. Like you, I'm an average Oregonian, and I feel like I'm not being represented in Washington. If you want to change what's going on in Washington, vote for me. I don't have a pollster. I don't have a campaign manager. I don't have a speechwriter. I don't know any political favors. The three things I'll be representing for you, working on for you, is taxes, jobs, and getting the property rights back. For taxes, I will introduce my fair share percentage tax plan. It's based on George Washington, who was the largest payer of taxes in his time. If he can pay his fair share, everybody in this room and every business can pay their own. pay their fair share of taxes. For property rights, I will start an impeachment process for Robert Salido, Thomas, and Scalia for not upholding the law and equity portion of the Constitution and not being in good behavior. As far as jobs, I will support a new stimulus package that is focused on rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding our schools, and having money available for small businesses. As far as people saying that cutting taxes is the way to go, we've been down the cut taxes road and things will get better for the last 10 years, and it hasn't worked, and it's not going to work in the future. Your neighbors are the creators of jobs when they start a small business. They start small businesses and create well-paying jobs to hire your kids that will be the next generations of taxpayers. Republicans claiming that Obama is spending $280,000 to create one job. What they don't tell you is George Bush spent $4 million to create one job. That's 15-to-1 jobs created that the Democratic way versus the Republican way. Republicans keep complaining that they know the Constitution and that we're not following the Constitution. But the way the Constitution starts out is we the people, not I the individual, not the corporations have the right to. It's we the people. Also, they claim that they support the Declaration of Independence. The last part of the last sentence says we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I do not hear one Republican ever repeating that to anybody, that they're willing to pledge their fortune. They keep passing the buck to the average working person. Republicans complain we spend too much. I agree, we spend too much. George Bush hired over 1 million people, 850,000 for Homeland Security, 100,000 for the TSA, and over 150,000 for private contractors in the 2 wars. He did not raise 1 cent in tax to pay for that. Not for the cars, not for the cell phones, not for the insurance, not for the office space. You're right, we spend too much. And because George Bush and Republicans didn't honor raising taxes and got rid of pay-go that balanced our budget and kept us out of what kept us from going in debt. If they would have kept pay-go, we would be out of debt right now. The next child born in America owes $42,000. That's a lousy way to enter the greatest country in the world. And if we go down the Republic's way of cutting taxes, they will double that. So if you want change in Washington, vote for me. I know I don't sound like a typical Democrat, but maybe it's time to elect a non-typical Democrat. Vote for me, Dominic Hammond.
Did you want a chance to go?
Sure. So, my name is Dan, and I'm representing the Cornell's campaign. Unfortunately, Rob couldn't make it tonight. We had a prior commitment. But I just wanted to, I'm not going to get into policy or anything like that, but I just wanted to let everybody know that we got everything up and running at the office, and if you'd like to come give us a hand at the office, working the phones, helping us set up signs. I'm guessing some of you have seen the signs that we've got popped up all over the place. We would love to have you come by. You can always reach us by phone, or just shoot us an email. And I would definitely encourage you guys to go check out the website, www.cornellsforcongress.com, and you can sign up to volunteer there. I don't want to take 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, thanks. Was there anyone that came in that, yes?
Yes.
Like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi there, I'm Robert Letton, and I'm running for the 1st congressional district with these fine people. To me, it's kind of simple. There's 3 things that are going on, and these individuals here made you aware of that. It's the economy, and it's jobs, and it's the deficit. I think they all run together, and I do think that the federal government should not be trying to create jobs. I think the federal government needs to let those of us who are business people do that. That's our job. So the government should get out of the way, start deregulating, do less legislation, let the people who create jobs do that. As far as cutting spending, to me, it's easy. The government, I mean, everyone knows that we spend way too much money. So if you look at it, there are, I think, 14 departments. Those 14 departments of the government, I think we are now the largest employer in the world. It's 23 million people, 28,000 commissions, bureaus. So there is so much overlap, it's horrifying. So the easiest thing to do, to me, is to get into those departments and start bringing everyone into the 21st century. And the way you do that is just start cutting the overlap. Everybody's doing the same thing. The federal government, what they're doing with the education, every state has a Department of Education. So we don't need the federal government to have such a large presence there. Cut some of that, let the states take care of it. The Department of the Interior, Fish, Game, and Wildlife, every state has that as well. So let's get the federal government to start cutting that overlap and let the states do what they do. So to me, it's not rocket science, but I think it's time to start that discussion, because that won't be easy, because everyone talks about cutting, and I don't think it's ever been done. So I think that's a nice approach that some people can actually come together on. Thank you. Oh no, I got my posse.
Oh, all right. Welcome you to the table, though, I just want you to know.
Thank you.
So, does anyone have a question they'd like to pose to the candidates, and we'll give them each a minute to answer that? Or two?
Don't shy.
Here's one.
Behind you.
Yes.
Yolanda McVicker. We've heard a lot of talk about cutting spending, and I want to know, here in Portland, the spending, or in the metropolitan area, the spending looks like things like light rail, the bridge over the Columbia River, the paving programs that we have. It looks like reformatting or redoing our sewer systems. It looks like the Land and Water Conservation Fund grants that fund all of our parks, or a lot of the parks acquisitions. So there are a lot of things that get funded. How do you guys determine what's good and what's bad, and what we need to cut?
Yeah, why don't we start on this side?
If you happen to take a look at my homemade signs and do a little research, Oregon's share of this wonderful war that we're into is 12+ billion. Look how many zeros there are in a billion. That's a lot of light rail or education or healthcare or whatever. Everybody is confused on the issue. Nothing's going to happen, folks, until you as individuals start to do something about it. If you don't change the system, step forward and make an effort to change how government works, and I don't know how you're going to do that specifically, except by voice, by recall, by election. It's not going to happen. I mean, be realistic. It's not going to happen. Government is sinking the ship. And if you don't stop the useless spending, you're not going to have money to do anything.
Well, it would be great if we could just say, okay, we're gonna stop having wars, and then there's gonna be plenty of money to spend for everything else. Unfortunately, that's not correct. We shouldn't be in Iraq, we shouldn't be in Afghanistan. The United States has no business invading and occupying foreign countries and then trying to rebuild them. All that does is create more terrorists. Now, we do need to fight the war against Islamic extremism, but we can do it intelligently by infiltrating terrorist organizations and destroying them, which costs a lot less money than sending hundreds of thousands of troops into foreign countries and having thousands of our young men and women getting killed. But even if we stop fighting these stupid wars, that doesn't mean that we should be spending money on all these other projects. You're not going to solve the $80 trillion debt, including the unfunded liabilities, just by stopping the wars. It is not an appropriate function of the federal government to be building sewers and building bridges in local areas and creating parks in local areas. Those are local functions. And one of the things that we have to understand is that everybody wants to bring money here to Oregon from the federal government. But don't you realize that we are also paying taxes to send hundreds of billions of dollars to the other 50 states? And if you have a congressman here who's making corrupt deals to bring the pork home here, he's also agreeing to send our money to other congressmen's districts. So he's got to make a lot of crooked deals to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's what got us into this crisis. We have to stop business as usual in Washington. We have to recognize that the government should only be performing those basic, simple functions that were assigned to it under the Constitution. And bridges isn't included.
I'm sorry you're at my back.
That's okay.
But,
I look better from the back, so it's okay.
I came in late.
Infrastructure is, I've been an operating engineer, which is a heavy equipment operator, for 29 years, but I've actually been in construction longer than that. And the federal government has no business telling Oregon how to spend its dollars or giving them dollars so that Oregon has to pay the dollars back. Whenever you have the federal government up here and your dollars are going into the federal government, they have a huge filter like this and they take a lot of money and then it comes back to us. Oregon dollars need to stay in Oregon so that we take care of our own infrastructure. I live on a scenic route. It's Washington County and Yamhill County. There is no problem between the counties in taking care of the road. And just with the I-5 crossing, there won't be any problem between Washington and Oregon if they have their own money and how to decide to spend it. But the biggest problem is right now we need to tighten our belts. We don't have any extra money. So there shouldn't be $137 or $140 million spent on research and development for the I-5 crossing, and only a very few dollars. I mean, only a couple of companies get all that money. For $140 million, they could have had $141 million projects to give to the local counties, the cities, to fix the infrastructure they need to fix. And you would have had that many jobs out and that many companies out. So spending your dollar wisely would be doing what you need to do, but letting the local counties and cities spend the money their way without ever filtering it all the way up to the state level even. The state needs to let the counties and cities take care of their infrastructure and doing it on a very slim budget with a lot more jobs out and a lot more companies. Thank you.
Hi, I'm gonna get over here because I don't want everybody at my back. Nobody's behind me now. All right, I'm Lisa Michaels, if you came in late, and I went to a great presentation on the whole I-5 corridor crossing from Nigel Jaquist, the Pulitzer Prize winning author who is the Willamette Week, and he let us know that they spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $145 million just studying it, predominantly with one company getting the benefits of David Evans and Associates, I believe. And what he also presented to us was that if they did an alternative plan where they had a bridge on outside of both 205 and the I-5, they would displace just 6 businesses as opposed to 86 businesses, which they're currently going to displace. And if they wanted to put tolls on that, which I don't even think they have to, this is much less expensive than the grandiose plan that they're trying to do with the I-5 corridor with the light rail and the whole 9 yards. And see these big entrenched politicians from Washington, D.C. that we've had in there year after year after year. You saw my graph. Numbers don't lie. You want to keep electing, big spending, bring home the pork, people that have big corporations like Honeywell and all these companies. They are the ones. General Electric. They build, one of their biggest products is engines for airplanes. They give him money, they give Blumenauer money and these congressmen money, and they make money off of doing public transit. Meanwhile, they're trying to shove us out of our cars. Who here wants to start traveling exclusively by light rail? I mean, come on, raise your hand. I don't see anybody. No, I can't take my kids to Little League practice. I can't do a lot of stuff by doing light rail or the buses. It's completely inefficient. We're not going to want to get out of our cars, but they're trying to force us to do that. And you've got to elect people that are honestly there working for your best interest so that we take government out of it. Their idea of cutting is, well, we wanted to spend 8% more, but we'll cut it. We'll only spend 3% more. But we're still increasing the spending. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Pavel Goberman. I'm sorry. Okay, about spending. Everybody knows about United States government spend billion taxpayers' money in war zone. You know any trace where money went? It all, Senator Wyden was a member of Finance Committee. It's not problem. Have to trace money again. Nation spend so much money on some South Africa. Over there, some women make children. They know America will help them, feed them. It's not proper way. Have to United Nations, its obligation to not only United States. Also, we spend so much money in other countries, they say, who say that that's America. Stop funding, stop, help our country. About Columbia River crossing. A few years ago, when Brenton was chair of Metro Council, I spoke before Metro Council. He asked them, the time they spent $140,000. I asked them, give me opportunity. In a few months, I will improve traffic on this bridge, in all bridges, in all cities. They ignored me. Now they spent $147 million. Idiot. I blame Department of Transportation. I blame Metro.
30 seconds left.
Okay, therefore have to cut, it's not important, cut wasting taxpayers' money, cut. Or this I against. And also prison, if prison will be profitable, we will save $1 billion on spending on prison. Also we will make money by prison, we will make country money.
Before you start my time, I want to clarify, what was the question again?
Just that there are a lot of things that we have benefits from here in our area. I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. Things like the sewer that they're doing in Portland.
We'll